The celebration of the New Year in France is traditionally marked by an address to the French people by the French president, speaking to them from the Élysée Palace. This year was no different. President Macron, as always, addressed the French people, spoke to them about the condition of France, was largely optimistic about the year ahead, and had much to say about the successes and problems and troubles of the year which has just passed. But there was one important respect in which this address of President Macron was different from every other. This is that Macron, for the first time for any French president, spoke more passionately about events in another country than in his own. More passionately about events in Britain, where Brexit has happened, than about conditions or situations in France. These were the words he used, translated into English. This evening, for the first time, a country, the United Kingdom, is leaving the European Union. A few days ago, we reached an agreement to organise our future relations, defending our interests, our industries, our fishermen, and our unity. The United Kingdom remains our neighbour, but also our friend and ally. The choice of leaving Europe, this Brexit, was the child of European malaise and lots of lies and false promises. I want to tell you very clearly this evening, our destiny is first of all in Europe. Our sovereignty is national, and I will do everything to ensure we remain the masters of our destiny and our lives. But this sovereignty also acts through the stronger, more autonomous and more united EU that we have built in 2020. Those are, when you think about it, remarkable words. Firstly, they are remarkable in that he is calling his erstwhile partner, Boris Johnson, the Prime Minister of Great Britain, the person whom Macron has supposedly a good personal relationship with, and the leader of the country that he speaks of as France's ally and friend. He speaks of Boris Johnson as a person who has achieved Brexit through lots of lies and false promises. An odd thing to say about the president, the prime minister of an ally and friend. The other thing that is really remarkable about this speech is how defensive in some ways it is. He talks, first of all, about how he's been able to ensure that he has that France's interests, its industries, its fishermen, its future relations have been successfully defended. He also, however, goes out of his way to make it clear that France will remain a part of the European Union and that it has no future outside it. He reassures the French people that, quote, our sovereignty is national, and I will do everything to ensure we remain the masters of our destiny and our lives. Britons will remember from the Brexit referendum the great slogan that fired the Leave campaign, which was take back control. This appears to be Macron's response. He's saying that France retains control. It retains control through him. He will defend France's sovereignty, and the French people remain masters of their destiny and their lives because France has not apparently given away its sovereignty. So that's what he says. At the same time, he makes it very clear that this French sovereignty is and must continue to be qualified. He speaks about this sovereignty also acts through the stronger, more autonomous and more united EU that we have built in 2020. And he makes his position completely clear. I want to tell you very clearly this evening, our destiny is first of all in Europe. So this is Macron staking out once more a very strong Europeanist, integrationist position, and doing so at the same time as he's condemning the British for leaving Europe by talking about Brexit as having been achieved through lots of lies and false promises, and at the same time reassuring the French people that even though he is pursuing integration within the EU, he is somehow protecting their sovereignty. Now, if some of these comments strike you as contradictory, that is because they are. I mean, it is becoming increasingly difficult for France, or indeed any country in the EU, to realistically claim that EU membership is fully reconcilable with complete sovereignty and with countries remaining fully masters of their own destiny. If you ask people in Greece, and if you ask people in Italy, and if you ask people in Ireland and in Denmark, all countries where governments which went against the EU on various policies have failed, where referendums and votes have been set aside, they will tell you that in fact sovereignty has now become very partial in their countries, and it is in fact the EU that makes the key decisions about many things. I would add that the people of France have also had a similar experience. They voted against the European Treaty of Union, the treaty that was going to create the European Constitution, in a referendum. And then what eventually happened is that all the provisions of that Constitution, which they rejected, came back in the form of the Lisbon Treaty. Nonetheless, Macron clearly wants the French people to think that they're retaining their sovereignty at the same time as he pursues further integration. And it's quite clear that that's what his real objective is. He speaks of our destiny, first of all, in Europe. Now, why is Macron talking like this? I think this is a clear sign that Brexit has unsettled him. It's unsettled him at various levels. Firstly, he is obviously well aware of the fact that in a year, he's just got a year now before the next presidential election, he is losing support. He is even less popular now than he was at the height of the Yellow Vest protests a year and a bit ago, and that Marine Le Pen is now polling level with him. He is also, of course, aware that in France, anti-European sentiment again seems to be growing. There was a movement set up in France in the summer, Generation Frexit, which now openly calls for France to leave the European Union and speaks about Frexit, by analogy with Brexit. We will see how far that movement goes and whether it in fact does develop into a real challenge. But of course, the other thing that must be frustrating for Macron is the extent to which he has been completely outmaneuvered by Boris Johnson on the one hand and by Angela Merkel on the other. It seems that to the extent that he had a strategy, he was trying to push Boris Johnson into a no-deal Brexit, which would have resulted, as Macron expected, in massive economic disruption, which would cause the British to come back, as Macron thought, and renegotiate very much more on Macron's terms a future arrangement with the European Union, than has actually happened. And he is also very frustrated that not only did that not take place, not only was a deal agreed, but that deal was agreed because Angela Merkel and Ursula von der Leyen basically overruled him, going for a minimalist Brexit deal which suited the British and the Germans more in the end than it did the French. So Macron feels under pressure. He also is aware that France is facing, despite his optimistic words, a difficult economic future. On the one hand, he's got to face the fact that the French economy is in deep recession, not of course alone in Europe in this, and that the pandemic is still very widespread in France. He's not yet able to pursue a mass vaccination program because European rules prevent that, even though vaccination is now, of course, starting in Britain, whilst economic recovery in France is going to be constrained by EU rules, of which he is himself partly an architect. So, unsurprisingly, Macron, feeling under growing pressure, both within France and outside, lashes out at the British, says that Brexit was the result of lies and false promises, and tries to remind the French people that their destiny is in Europe. When a leader talks in that way, one has the sense that the leader feels that events are slipping out of his control. That's certainly how it looks to me, and I wonder whether Monsieur Macron will remain French president for much longer. Please join me in my next programme. I hope you enjoyed this one. Look us up also on our main channel at the Duran. Buy our wonderful magic mugs and shirts and hoodies and stickers and hats and hoodies on our Duran shop. Remember to find us on our other platforms and subscribe to us both on YouTube and on our other platforms, and support us via Subscribestar, PayPal and Patreon. Thank you very much, and please come to my next program.